The Bear on Hulu is a very popular show, and rightly so. And I really loved season 1 in particular because I loved the frenetic nature of it. You know, it was this sort of boiling pot of just emotion and people, and you had so much crosstalk and so forth. And I just overall love that sense of filmmaking, right? And what I appreciate about season 2 is that it's different, right? It actually slows that down and has it in moments, but overall, in an odd way, not that it's a more relaxed, season, but the way in which it drives up its conflict isn't in the same method, right? And I think that's what's so wonderful about it. So I figured I'd hop in and kind of join the discussion on The Bears season 2. So this is going to be spoiler filled, and I want to talk about just various aspects of this season and the show in general that I like, that force me to think and share what things and how I'm approaching them, right? And the wonderful thing about it is that there's so many angles to come at this with, and so I just want to share a few of the ones that have been on my mind and open up a discussion. Like I said, there's already a great discussion on The Bear online. I wanted to add to it and continue it by allowing you to respond in the comments section or hitting me up on social media at Svitek. So one of the angles that I always sort of like to look at is this notion of maximizers versus satisfiers. And what essentially it means is that maximizers want to ensure they get the most out of a choice or anything that they're working on, whereas satisfiers tend to be, okay, that's good enough and I'll move on. Right? Now, it's not to say that any person is a maximizer or a satisfier and that's it. We all fluctuate, in various aspects of our life. And I think that's what's interesting for the main character of Cartman, played by Jeremy Allen White, is because so many things in life, he hasn't even necessarily been a satisfier. Essentially, like when you want to be this top chef like he is, you have to be a maximizer, right? It's all about, as he's reminded, your mind has to be in this fully, completely, and that's it. And his struggle is he's been there, he's done that, and maybe even in the realm that he's so good at, he just wants to be a satisfier, right? And let that be okay. But of course, there's the weight of expectation all around him, right? His partner, his new partners, certainly his investor, the rest of the people working at the restaurant, building to this this higher goal, right? And so that is at opposition, and it's interesting to me because in my own journey of life, right, I could have been categorized as a maximizer in a few things, just like completely driven, like, all right, going for this, blah, blah, blah. And there's this notion that, maximizers do tend to be a little bit unhappier because they're always like, okay, even when you make a choice, let's say it's the best choice today to get like a gaming computer, well, in 6 months, there's going to be a better choice, right? And so there's always this chasing of that thing. And as sort of the name's implied, like never fully satisfied, right? The counter opposite to a maximizer is a satisfier. So you're not satisfied. And that's a tough thing, right? But I think there is this difference, and I'm still trying to essentially grapple with it, put it to words. But I believe there is delineation between, pushing yourself to your limits and in a healthy way, right? In a competitive way, versus burning yourself out and having a toxic work environment. And, the irony of ironies really was that, Carmen thought he had to shoulder so much of this responsibility, right? And of course, there was things he needed to do. But there's things that he also took on to do that he said he would and never did, right? The fridge handle being the most egregious of it. But in an interesting way, right? His sort of strength from first season carried over into this one without realizing it was inspiring and being a teacher in a way, or a coach, whatever you want to term it, to these people, right? Just look at Cousin, and his arc in this season, going from someone, at the end of last season, he was someone that worked in this restaurant, but didn't, just looked at it as a job, essentially, and a job that he cared about, but he cared about because it was his identity, but also didn't care about it, right? And in this one, he didn't necessarily know his place and things like that. And then he pushed against the sort of tradition of high culinary value. And then when he embraced it, he found meaning in it, right? And a joy in it, and saw that while it's not curing cancer, there's a way to interact with people and make them feel seen and special. And that's what he did, right? And he's not the only one. Like, all of them really culminated, right? That's the ending of this season, to me, is beautiful for that simple reason, where you have everyone, as chaotic as it is, they're getting it done without Carmen. And it couldn't have been possible without Carmen at the same time, right? Like, he allowed them to really step into their own and to rise to this newfound level, and with joy for them, right? So the whole season really is this push and pull of, wanting to be the best, but also being happy with what you're doing. And it seems, for the most part, that everyone's sort of finding their way. Now, of course, the three partners, Sugar, Sydney, and Carmen, they in particular, I think Sydney's finding the joy, Sugar's finding the joy in this. Obviously, it's not good when Sydney goes out in the back after the friends and family night and pukes everywhere. Or, Sugar is just not having, there's a tenseness to her, right? That's not good. But they're easing into it, right? In a way where those, in time, you could theorize, could be lessened, eased, and so forth. Whereas for Carmi, that tension only rises. Especially so the girl that he's just been smitten over for all these years, here he has a chance with her. And you understand when she asks him, hey, why did you give me a fake number? By the end of the season, you understand he was so desperate to try to not get involved because he couldn't trust himself. And what he says at the end, obviously very hurtful, but also in a way, I don't know, I like to read deeper into it, and in a way it's false, because the key element to it all is episode 6, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the mom makes an appearance, the wonderful Jamie Lee Curtis, in the finale as well, and she can't bear to be with her kids because they're much better off without her, right? And so his essential feeling is not, Claire or the restaurant. It's more that this woman that he does love, even though he has a problem admitting it, he doesn't want to ruin her because he's seen the inadequacies of his own family through his mom, through his brother. And he's seen essentially the pain that it brought him, yes, 100%. But he's also seen the pain that it brought Sugar, right? And the worry and things like that. And so he's desperate to not do that. He cannot imagine a world where he doesn't do that. And rather than see, as I've sort of been highlighting, that if he releases some of that control, things can thrive. Now, it doesn't mean abandon the restaurant, but it doesn't have to be so high pressured as he's perhaps making out to be. Now, whether or not that's true in real life, I don't know, but from a narrative perspective, that's what I'm interpreting. Because as I said, my God, the secondary characters, the sous chef who really rises to the occasion, and rather than berate her coworker who skipped out on the cooking classes, she offers him a way in and to not be pushed out. Marcus, right? His journey and so forth, and really striving to continue to learn and adapt was wonderful, right? So while initially you might think, okay, is there a sense of direction to this season? The tapestry in which they're operating under justifies itself wonderfully in the end. And if you have that trust, it's a wonderful season, right? And certainly from what I'm seeing, people are recognizing that, and it's affected them. So, to me, that's how, on a macro level, I view this season. And it has been a joy to watch, albeit in a weird sadistic way, because you just see this tortured soul of Carmy just going through this and trying so desperately to find peace. I'm not even going to say joy, but just peace in life. So yeah, and the one thing that did bring him joy, he's messed up, and as a sucker for love and whatnot, I would love to see them together, but I would also understand if she never forgave Carmen for that. And it sucks, because I know the level of pain that he's going through. But it's also one of the things, you can't be a garbage dump onto somebody else. Especially when, she did nothing wrong. She wanted to support him wholeheartedly, and she did. She wanted to see his success. And that's what makes it heartbreaking, because it's not a person saying like, hey, you got to choose the restaurant or me. She never made that distinction. She was so thrilled for him. And he just didn't know how to handle it. And that sucks. She doesn't deserve that either. And what a tragedy, right? Right? And unfortunately, that's life a lot of times. They say kind of timing is everything. And who knows, like, where Carmen will be in 5-6 years from now. Maybe he would have been finally ready. And everything would have been okay, but, regardless of what happens, maybe they get together, maybe they don't, but, it's, hopefully, if nothing else, as I say to anyone just in life, you can't go to the past to beat yourself up. You can only go to the past to take away a lesson. And, I don't think Carmen is ready for that lesson. Certainly Cousin was so distraught, I mean, that's the thing, like, he, in many ways, is like our audience surrogate in that moment, because we are him. We wanted nothing but the best for him, and, Cousin so wanted this. From a pure intention. There's no ulterior motive. And it got messed up. Anyway. As I said, there's many aspects to talk about it. The mom, the fact that we were introduced to her, and she plays such a vital role. We'll see I think we'll see her next season, when that time comes. So, I'll certainly have more thoughts then, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just that perpetual notion of family trauma being passed down, and Carmen really bearing the brunt of it, of not knowing how to handle it. I mean, his brother didn't. And look where that essentially ended up at. And so, yeah. In many ways, our stories are a guide for living life. And I hope it turns out okay. Overall, right? I don't think everything's going to be peachy and rosy, because I don't think that's life, and I don't think that's what the show's interested in. And even if it does go in a negative way, I think they can do it well too, and certainly reflective of life, because life doesn't always have a happy ending. But man, do I want some sort of goodness for these characters in the end. Well, there's some nuance, of course. Like, I don't think it'll be, they rode off into the sunset and lived happily ever after type of thing. But just something, I think, would be nice. And I think we'll get that. I don't know. That's my prediction for, I don't know if it's next season but by the series finale, whenever that may be. So anyway, these are some of my thoughts and how I'm approaching looking at this season of The Bear, but certainly open to interpretation, and enrichment of the discussion, whatever you want to tackle and continue, or just like pick a new topic, let me know down in the comments section. Would love to chat with you about it. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I appreciate you. See you next time.